Good day to all ladies and gentlemen. Right, so this presentation is part of research, PhD research project, and the authors are Charles Mawutor, Ocloo, myself, Adele Veiga, and Jan H. Kroeze, all from the University of South Africa. So to provide a background, information is actually a very important element in the discharge of our duties, be it individuals or institutions alike. And this dependency on information and technologies has indeed created a need for institutions to secure their information access. And huge investment being made as part of the efforts in technology to protect information assets are in fact not yielding the desired results. Moreover, the lack of organizational commitments to enhance the non-technical aspects of information security largely account for the consistent rise of security breaches in institutions. An example are the higher learning institutions. So it's a fact that securing information asset thus goes beyond technical controls, but encompasses people, technology, policy, and operations. So focusing only on technical controls as a way of providing solutions to security challenges is not an effective strategy. And so organizations such as the higher learning institution ought to give equal attention to human aspects of information security in order to promote a strong information security culture to eventually or ultimately secure their information assets. So the aim of this research is to identify a comprehensive list of factors of information security culture in order to construct a conceptual information security culture framework known as the InfoCircle, which will provide the guidance to effectively cultivate a strong information security culture, specifically in higher learning institutions. And this research specifically seeks to answer the question, what constitutes a comprehensive list of factors for cultivating an information security culture in higher learning institutions? So in order to provide the concept or provide an understanding and appreciation of the concept of information security culture, the researchers adopted the comprehensive definition proposed by Veiga et al. And this was selected because it focuses on or centered on Shane's concept of organizational culture. And these as abducted to the context of information security culture. And moreover, it also considers the impact of time in cultivating information security culture, essentially because culture is dynamic and information security culture is not an exception. So the definition thus indeed provides a comprehensive view of information security culture, focusing on 6 areas, namely knowledge, attitude and values, behavior, time, assumptions, beliefs, and perceptions. And so in summary, this definition refers to security, information security culture as security behavior of members towards protecting institutional information access. Now, it's a known fact that there exists a relationship, been proven by literature, that there's a relationship between organizational culture and information security culture. And in fact, information security culture is regarded as a critical component of organizational culture. And that is to say that organizational culture acts as the superset, and you have the information security culture as a subset. And both of these cultures have a common cultural attributes that's collectively expressed in the knowledge, assumptions, values, artifacts, and etc., and also have a similar manifestation in that regard. So the study also identified some challenges of cultivating information security culture in higher learning institutions. But that is to also emphasize that higher learning institutions do manage information technology resources for the purposes of teaching, learning, and research work. And essentially, these institutions usually overlook but have vast amounts of student, staff, research, and financial information that in fact makes them a breeding ground for cyber criminal activities. And so if a successful attack is launched on a university information system, for example, it has dire consequences which can be experienced from the perspective of economic, operational, reputational, and legal damage. So, but the fact is higher learning institutions continue to experience these mass information leakages, and in fact at an alarming rate, which even worsens as ICT keeps advancing. And this has led to these institutions being tagged as a hotbed for data breaches. Now, the study also identified some contributing factors, or some factors that contribute to this trend of mass data leakage experienced by these higher learning institutions. And one of it being the over-reliance on technical controls to secure information assets, and also the lack of staff and management involvement in the development and implementation of security strategies and procedures. And so, indeed, a positive information security culture which presents a solution has the tendency of increasing security policy compliance, and also strengthening the overall information security posture. And this will enable institutions reduce financial loss caused by security breaches if well implemented. So it is eminent in reference to the trend contributing to this mass data leakage in higher learning institutions, which significantly is in connection with the human element. It is quite eminent that higher learning institutions should offer the due attention to tackle human element of information security culture to ultimately reduce the mass leakage of information. Now, in terms of approach, the study adopted the scoping literature review with meta-analysis in order to identify factors for cultivating and assessing information security culture in order to construct the appropriate framework, that's the InfoSecCap. And this is suitable because one of the main purposes of conducting a scoping literature review is to identify key factors of a concept. So the list of electronic databases used to conduct the search for articles are ACM, AIS, Emerald, IEEE, Scopus, and Web of Science. So in all, 10 papers were found eligible, which had the content of factors of information security culture. So the table 1 provides an overview of related studies that were considered and examined, and it provides a summary of the information security culture factors proposed by each study and the approach or approaches adopted in the conduct of those studies. Now, the total count of each factor was done, and they were further examined and further consolidated to produce a final list of 25 information security culture factors, which were then explored to develop the InfoSecCap. So the literature analysis reveals the need for more research that takes a holistic view or a good appreciation of information security culture related issues to develop a comprehensive framework. And also the frameworks proposed from the studies considered were either generic in context or focus on context other than higher learning institutions. And for information security culture, context is very critical. for its successful implementation and assessment as well. And literature also proves that as well. So in building this conceptual framework, the final list obtained during the literature review was then applied to propose this framework. And this framework is grounded on the following. One being the first building block of the InfoCircle is the STOPE model developed by Bakri. And then the second theory that was adapted as a second building block is the same theory of organizational culture. So the STOPE model does provide the 5 development components of the InfoCircle, and the theory of organizational culture does indicate the levels of information security culture, which reflect the outcome of the culture within that organization. So in looking at the STOPE, which was originally developed by Bakri, this model has been applied in various research fields, including domains of information systems. And the model is made up of 5 components, namely strategy, technology, organization, people, and environment. So Bakri, in his view, posits that security challenges are in fact concerned with organization, technology, people, and environment, which can be resolved by adapting appropriate strategies. And these present a holistic view of information security culture related issues. And so each underlying factor of the InfoCircle has been indeed mapped or classified under a component of the STOPE view. Hence, the implication is that it's developed and implemented from the perspective of the STOPE component it is mapped to or aligned with. And so just to provide a brief meaning of this component, the strategy defines the development objective and provides directions for achieving these objectives within a period. The technology caters for the non-technical issues associated with the use of technology. Now, the organization component is centered on the structure and culture of an organization, and this refers to the collection of beliefs, values, assumptions, etc., that uniquely represent or defines the culture within that organization. And so clearly, the STOPE model does have culture or as a focus, and that tie in and is in sync with information security culture, which also takes culture or context very critically. And the people component focuses on transforming security behavior of users with direct access to an organization's information assets. The environment component refers to identifiable elements within an organization's external environment, which affects its structure and operation, and ultimately affect the security of information assets. So on the level of the same concept of organizational culture, this is of the view that in having a good understanding of culture is to see it as existing at 3 levels, which are artifacts, expert values, and basic assumption. And this spans from the level of tangible manifestation to those that are unconscious, basic, invisible assumptions. And so in contextualizing these concepts provided by Shane, Van Nieuwkerk and Von Sams also introduce a 4th level, which is critical from the perspective of information security culture, which is knowledge. And so this study considers information security culture as existing at these 4 levels, which collectively reflect the nature of information security culture cultivated in an organization and are indeed impacted by the factors of information security culture. So the figure 1 on your right depicts or represents the design of the InfoCircle developed for cultivating information security culture. And each factor of the InfoSecCAF has been mapped to an information security culture development component, and therefore addresses issues related to that component. And if you take a look at the diagram, the first column, let me bring my pointer on, okay. So the first column is the information security culture development components, which are strategy, technology, organization, people, and environment. And the second column is made up of the underlying factors of information security culture. And each of these factors are mapped or aligned with their respective development components. So for example, if we consider the strategy components, the underlying factors of information security culture mapped to it are the top management commitment, information security policy, budget, change management, and program organization. And these underlying factors of information security culture indeed influence the outcome of the security or the nature of the security culture cultivated within an organization. And this reflects at the level of knowledge, underlying assumptions, espoused values or beliefs, and artifacts. So in the STOPE model represents a holistic view of the categories of information security culture issues that should or must be addressed by the underlying factors of the InfoSecCAF in order to promote a strong information security culture. Now, what this means is that if we look at the roles or the definitions of each of these underlying factors, it proves that, and if you compare that with the factors contribute to the mass data leakages in institutions of higher learning, these underlying factors, indeed, if well implemented, provide a solution to the challenges being experienced. So for example, regarding the top management commitment factor, which is key to addressing challenges of establishing a strong information security culture, which is due to the lack of management commitments experienced by higher learning institutions. This factor, if well implemented and implemented, would indeed solve that aspect of the challenges being experienced. And again, in connection with the information security policy factor, if indeed developed with the involvement of all stakeholders, has the tendency to promote security ownership and therefore impact the security behavior of members. And so, yes, this indeed answers the research questions of this study. And that's to say that the factors listed here fit the context of higher learning institutions. However, the InfoSecCAF at this stage is still a generic framework and is not limited to the context of Ghana. And it can be applied in institutions which fall outside the educational sector. Hence, the researchers intend to conduct further research to validate the InfoSecCAF in order to tailor it to the context of Ghana. And so the study also provides the various definitions for the underlying elements and the development components. And by way of contribution to research, this framework contributes to research by consolidating the different factors of information security culture proposed by other researchers to provide a more comprehensive framework that covers a broader perspective of information security culture related issues. And the InfoSecCAF also provide, by way of a contribution again, the knowledge on how the underlying factors of information security culture, such as information security policy or monitoring, can indeed be classified under the main components of information security culture. and thus indicate the role played by each factor in the overall achievement of a strong information security culture. So by way of limitations and future study, this study is limited in the sense that the proposed InfoCircle at this stage indeed is a conceptual framework, though its factors provide a solution to the challenges associated with cultivating information security culture in higher learning institutions. So the researchers intend to conduct a study to validate the InfoCircle using expert reviewers to assess its comprehensiveness and usefulness to the context of higher learning institutions in Ghana in order to tailor it to that specific context. So to conclude, this study used the scoping literature review to determine what constitutes a comprehensive list of factors for cultivating information security culture in higher learning institutions. And these factors identified through this review were explored and used to construct the InfoCircle. And the InfoCircle is indeed an integration of the STOPE model with the factors or the underlying factors of information security culture, where the 5 components of the STOPE model have been applied in the context of information security culture as a development component, which will be helpful for implementing a strong information security culture in such institutions. Hence, in that respect, the InfoCircle can be regarded as an extended STOPE model, which can be used for establishing a strong information security culture in higher learning institutions. And the InfoCircle, again, is a holistic and theoretically sound framework that can assist management and information security professionals, in cultivating an effective information security culture in higher learning institutions. And so the development of this framework is indeed motivated by available information security culture frameworks, the STOPE model, and the theory of organizational culture. And on these notes, that ends the presentation. And thank you very much for your attention.